B.P.R.D.
I'm feeling so much better about my lack of... Can you hear the music?
I heard it that time. I never hear it, but I think I heard it like through your headphones just for a second.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty close to the phone. Yeah, that's funny. Hi, and welcome to Seattle's #1 comic book podcast, the podcast that is dedicated to the first issue of your next favorite comic. And I'm Larry.
James.
Episode 111.
And 11. Wow, that's a lot.
B.P.R.D, Plague of Frogs, Part 1.
Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. This is a Hellboy experience. Although, a bit of a spoiler. You don't. There's no Hellboy in this.
Right. I don't know if he shows up in this iteration, in this arc.
Iteration.
But
yeah, well, we'll have to keep on reading and finding out.
Yes.
If it's your next favorite comic.
Yes, if it's your next favorite comic, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out later if that was the case. But before we dive into B.P.R.D, Plague of Frogs,
let's do
Part
some
1.
Recent and Decent.
Recent and Decent. Exciting.
What do you got for us, Larry? You got something?
This is a Kickstarter project. Credits going to writer, artist, and lettered by one Brian Flint. 70 plus pages for $5. This is nutso. It's called Kuru.
Kuru.
Kuru. And I wanted to say that it's a horror genre comic.
Okay.
Black and white.
Nice.
And it is a group of Neanderthals who have come back to the valley that they've left whilst they were hunting the mammoth. And they come back, and their valley has been overtaken, at night anyway, by
vampires.
Vampire chimpanzees.
What?
Who live in a cave.
I was just joking, but that sounds awesome.
Who live in a cave and come out at night, and they're warned off by these three people who have stayed back, but there's too many of you to like protect you all, and mayhem happens. Oh my God!
That sounds like a really cool concept. I like the time, like. Usually when you think of a period piece, you're like, oh, the 1920s or, the Wild West. But like Neanderthal is something that I don't know if we've ever had a comic that goes that far back.
Oh.
I guess we had Lewis and Clark. That was pretty old. What's the oldest comic we've done?
I don't know. That's a good question, but this is deep and beautifully illustrated. Lots and lots of comic book pages. And when I say comic book pages, I'm talking about blocking, storyboarding, and just like amazing pages. And then when the women are telling, it's these three women who are telling the stories to the Neanderthal chief. Don't stick around. Get your people out of here before dark. It's too late. Done. Boom. They're telling this.
Too late.
Turn
back now.
They're telling this great story about how the chimpanzees hunt. Now they come out at night, and they show this deer getting the chomp, and when the deer gets chomped, like a breath of death a breath of death comes out of its mouth and its skull and crossbones. It's gorgeous art, super gorgeous art, but then things get nutty.
Then things get nutty. It sounds like it already is a little bit nutty.
So inside of this book,
banana nutty.
Bananas is where this book goes, because inside of this book there are breaks, intermissions, commercials.
These are the breaks.
So in one of these breaks there is a short story called Mission Specialist Conrad, and it goes wackadoodles into outer space, where Mission specialist Conrad, beautifully illustrated, turns into a zombie inside of his spacesuit.
Spaceship?
No, inside of his spacesuit.
Is it a different art style?
A little bit, but it's all Brian Flint.
Okay. Well, because like I think we've seen one or two different comics where they'll like have a break in the middle and then they totally change the art style.
No, it's not crazy. It's not the art style isn't the problem here, and there's no problem.
Okay.
It goes straight from this horror comic telling of these vampire chimpanzees into a Monty Python skit.
Whoa, okay, that's not what I expected.
In outer space. And then it's back to the...
So when you said it was horror at the beginning, I can see why you were kind of hesitant to say it that way.
Yeah, it's crazy, wacky story in outer space, and then it's back to...
snap back to reality.
Snap back to reality.
with vampire monkeys.
Right. And then, from there, it jumps back into... but, like, again, it's here's a break from the action, and then back to our story. There's not, like, we're going to try and blend these two together, because that would never work. I think it's just the artist, writer, letterer, Brian Flint, having fun with this. And it is kooky. So there's another story in here, and I can't really even begin to describe this story, but it's World War I. They're in the trenches. The mustard gas has been applied, and a very young, I'm going to spoil it, and this is the story, and this one's called The Secret Origin Story of Brad.
Is it Brad Pitt?
No. I don't know why Brad in this story is Hitler.
What?
So Hitler holds his breath and doesn't get attacked by the mustard gas.
Yeah, he famously was against that stuff.
And then I can't even continue with it. It's too wacky. But it's Monty Python. Two very strange characters come out in a very Monty Python way and talk to this holding his breath Brad and save his life.
/ Hitler. Interesting. Well, this sounds like definitely something we can sink our teeth into. Maybe we'll make it even an episode in the future.
I would love to make this an episode, and it would be a deep dive, full episode because...
Yeah, well, 70 pages you said, right?
Yeah. And it's only $5 on the Comixology, so check it out. That's recent and decent. It's called Kuru Volume 1, 70-plus pages. James.
Are there multiple volumes, or are more issues coming out? Or
not yet.
Does it end with like an end, or does it end kind of open?
It ends with an end. The monkey story ends with an end, and I would have loved I would have loved to have gotten in on this Kickstarter because I looked at his page, and some of the perks were amazing. For $100, Brian Flint would have drawn an image of you being chainsaw murdered by a vampire chimpanzee. How awesome would that be? That would be awesome.
That'd be good.
All right, so let's get into some B.P.R.D.
Yeah, Bureau of Paranormal Research and Development.
James,
Defense.
What's the setup here?
So, this is a Mike Mignola story, and we did a Hellboy issue quite a while ago, but he's the Hellboy guy, and this is in the Hellboy universe. So it's like paranormal creatures investigating paranormal worlds, a little bit like Men in Black maybe, where it's like the normal world doesn't know about this alien world, but it's not necessarily alien. It's also like, I don't really know the boundaries of how fantasy this goes, but it seems like the paranormal almost has no bounds. So we start off with just kind of a regular, actually, I wanted to make a point of like the coloring. We have a colorist in this issue, and especially on the cover, you notice it. which made me real excited. I was like, oh, if the inside is colored like the outside, I'll be real happy. It's not quite, but the coloring is really good.
Yeah, it does have a pop. And Dave Stewart is a Mike Mignola, like this house.
They're a team.
This house style art. Although this house style in this particular issue doesn't lend itself to the same. I think this is early days house style.
Okay. Because it's not really extreme, but it's not crazy detailed, but it's very well done. It's pretty detailed.
Yeah.
And it's it's not sketchy, but it's got a, how would you describe it?
I'm okay with it. It seems a little, juvenile. You know, it seems a little like I could, like if I really gave it an effort, I could draw that same face, you know?
Okay, yeah, like the faces don't have a lot of detail, but like the coat will have like a lot of wrinkles in it and like layers of wrinkles, and like some of the monsters are pretty cool and impressive looking.
I like the monsters.
So it's like that's where more effort was led, but like I thought the art was good. Like it was easy to follow.
That's the best part about it. The pacing and the structure is all there.
Yeah, but it wasn't pushing any boundaries. Like you wouldn't say, "Oh, it's my favorite."
Right. It's very well storyboarding. Like
but not like in a unique way necessarily.
Yeah, like camera.
Yeah, like there's a lot of pages where it's just like a straight 8-panel or something like that. So anyway, so we start off and there's like this scientist going into this lab, and he's like, and there's two scientists, one guy who works at the lab, one guy who's like,
I got to get into the lab and meet you,
professor. Yeah, he's like, hey, I heard you're doing some cool things. Let me come in. And you know, the guy's like, and no one's normally allowed in here, but you're so respected in the field, like, I gotta let you in. So they go in, and there's this like crazy fungus thing that looks like a giant mushroom, but like not really like a mushroom we've ever seen. And the scientist who works there is like, it grew this big in 6 weeks. You know, it used to be the size of a fingernail, and it's unprecedented how quickly it's growing. And while he's saying this, he gets shot in the back by the other professor. And the security guard is watching on the screen, and he calls in the cops. Hey, you know, like, what are you, like, what? This is not what you expected?
Yeah.
So, starts off with a little bit of violence, but it's not gory at all.
No.
It's probably like the least gory gunshot wound I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like old West.
Yeah.
He's got ketchup on his shirt.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just on his coat. And then, so the cops come in, and all of a sudden this professor guy is like talking to the spore, and he's saying master, the master commands, and the police officers, blam, 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 blam. You don't even see it. You just hear it. And, that's the end of this first scene.
Yeah. And then our next scene, we jump
What do you think about that first hook? Pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, where did this mild-mannered doctor see inside of this fungus spore?
Yeah. So like all these hooks got laid pretty much right away. Like, what is this fungus thing? Why did this professor kill this other guy? Why is he calling the spore thing master? Like, it almost makes you think like maybe he's brainwashed by something. I want to think like maybe the fungus is like in his brain or something like that, and he was called to it, or maybe something else is calling him to do something. Somebody's motivating this professor to do some crazy thing, and I want to know why.
Yeah, this is great old-timey. Well, I want to say old-timey movies. Maybe I watched too much Turner Classic Movies or something, but this is some great like mad scientist stuff.
Yeah.
It just looks like it. What are you doing
laying
with that
down
gun?
Some characters and laying down some action and laying down some hooks.
Yeah.
And all in the first 3 or 4 pages.
But then it kind of takes a crazy left turn in this next bit